Memory card only lasts like an hour, so we can't ramble too much. Hello! 'Tis I, Julian Greystoke. We're here in our living room on our comfy couch so that Adam can fit, and we're doing another couples video, because some of you like those.
Wait to the end of the video to find out my ulterior motives.
Dun dun dun! Also, it's your show.
The Emperor has arrived.
The Emperor has arrived. So today I thought I would combine two of my favorite things. One of them is talking about writing. The other one is a secret favorite thing, which is listening to other people read and react to Reddit posts. You know you like it too. You know it's entertaining. So I figured I would try to jump on that bandwagon that is kind of taking over at least my YouTube feed and see if people like it, or if it's a complete dud and 5 people watch it and I will never do it again. I have prepared some stories from Reddit that are about writing. Am I the antagonist?
Hey, there we go.
For making fun of my girlfriend for writing fan fiction and claiming it's actual writing?
Do we have to read any further? The obvious answer is yes, they are.
But let's read on.
Alright.
My girlfriend, Abby, 31, and I, male 33, have been together for a few months, and this Easter I was going to introduce her to my family. We haven't moved in together yet. I don't know what introducing her to the family has to do with fan fiction, but okay.
He's trying to find out how serious should I take this relationship. She thinks fan fiction is real writing, and I don't know.
Oh no.
I don't know if we can take it to the next level because of that.
Abby is quite smart, and she has a PhD and works in her field. I only have a BA, so you can imagine my surprise when a hot and smart woman wanted to date me. Anyway, I digress.
Especially considering how much of a antagonist they are.
Abby's passion is writing, although she's never allowed me to read anything she wrote. That's the opposite of me. I throw everything I write at people. She dreams of writing a book and says she's practicing and trying to draft things. One day, I was staying over and fell asleep when she went to her office to write. When I woke up, I peered over her shoulder when she was writing and saw names that sounded familiar. I asked her about this, and sure enough, she admitted to writing fan fiction. Apparently, she already wrote a 100K fan fiction and is working on a third one. She says it's writing practice and she loves it. I told her it's cringy, and if she's serious about her book, she'd write it by now because she's pretty much already wrote 2 books, if only they weren't fan fiction. She got silent and told me to leave her alone. When I introduced her to my family, the family's coming back in, I mentioned that she has a PhD, and my brother and sister got impressed and asked about it. Abby tried to tell them, but I interjected and told them not to be so impressed because she wastes her time writing silly fan fiction. So
you are lucky she is still with you,
sir.
I
mean, maybe she's not. So hopefully I don't even know. It gets worse. So I don't even know how she got the doctorate, because that's a definite correlation. Is writing fan fiction and your ability to study or do class. It was meant as a joke, but Abby was angry.
Oh, fuck yeah, she was.
She called me an a-hole.
Yep.
And she wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day.
Good on her.
And asked me to drive her home. I tried to come in, but she told me she wanted to be alone and write her fan fiction. Good for her. I told her she was childish and left anyway. I haven't heard back from her since.
Good on Abby.
I told my sister, and my sister agreed with Abby.
Yep.
I tried to call Abby, but she texted me with a-hole and nothing else.
Yep.
My sister thinks I owe Abby an apology, and I don't think I did anything wrong. And Abby is just annoyed. Was I the antagonist here? Alright, I started us off with an easy one.
Yeah, this is super easy. Like, you did nothing wrong for an antagonist.
Yeah, I mean...
perfectly acceptable behavior for an antagonist.
Being a jerk face, you got it. You nailed it. Yeah, I mean, you guys know how I feel about fanfiction. That fanfiction is writing...
The dude recognized the characters, so it's a fandom they're into and or aware of. So, like, if the fandom's cringe, you're just as cringe.
But also, like, I feel like maybe that's your sign that she didn't show you, like, even if you're part of the fandom and she didn't show it to you, I think she already knew that you had, like, proclivities toward being a antagonist. I will say one teeny tiny little eensy caveat is that he's not wrong, that she could have written her original work in this time if she wanted to. Because she's proven to herself that she can write whole, long fiction, so now would be the perfect time for her to start writing her original work if she wanted to. Nothing says she has to.
She is having fun. It was clearly said she's having fun writing these fanfics. And you know what? If you're enjoying yourself, good on you. Keep having fun.
The one thing that writing these fanfictions isn't doing is putting words into your original work, but I'm sure she's aware of that. And eventually, if she's serious about writing a book, she will go do that.
If she's serious about writing her own original book, she will go do that. She has written 2 books.
They're just fan fiction. And potentially, you could turn those into original fiction if you shave the serial numbers off well enough. Mm-hmm. Please shave them off well. And not badly, like in A Night in Its Moon. All right. Am I the antagonist for calling a student in my creative writing class a feeble-minded twit?
Well, I would love to read the story in which you are not the antagonist, because I want to know what they did to actually deserve it. But I'm suspicious that...
Feeble-minded twit is a fun insult, though.
It is.
All right. I am a creative writing major. I've always...
Oh, not the professor. Okay, more likely that it's an acceptable insult now.
I've always had an infinity for storytelling. I think that's supposed to be an affinity. Don't worry. More of us, I understand. Like, I'm a storyteller and not a clean drafter at all. I was writing dialogue in the 1st grade. Uh-oh, we're getting pretentious already. And by the time I graduated high school, I had penned hundreds of pieces, most of which were Roman eclefs in the spirit of Hemingway. Oh God, the pretentiousness is growing by the moment. I was willing to be like, okay, fellow writer. But the pretentiousness is already pretty high. A lot of people counsel me against majoring solely in creative writing, but it's my calling. All right, honey. I'm in a year-long creative writing thesis course with 9 other students. Admission to the course was selective, and the coursework is primarily consists of workshopping creative writing pieces with the rest of the class. Workshopping stuff is a really great way to get better at your craft. 4 of the students are poets, which can often prove burdensome. Oh, poor baby. To the rest of us, as they have very little grasp of the conventions of fiction. Okay, but you wanna know the flip side? I'm really good at prose. I am absolutely garbage at poetry. Hot garbage. I don't know how to do it. It doesn't make sense in my brain. So, flip side there, dude. I bet you suck at poetry.
Bet you're rather burdensome to them.
I bet you're burdensome at poetry.
Poor poets having to deal with you.
Earlier this week, it was my turn to be workshopped. I turned in a 59-page piece that I've been pouring my heart into since summer. The first chapter of a novel based loosely on a girl I hooked up with during my freshman year. Great, I'm sure she's thrilled to be used as your book fodder. Thematically, it's focused on the transience of romance, self-medication, powerful sex, and time. I was really excited to hear what the class had to say.
59-page piece focusing on 4 broadly different topics.
The pretentiousness is still high. To start, my professor praised my control of language and use of metaphor. Other classmates lauded the dialogue, which has always been a strength of mine, and the only hot girl in the class, rude, described it as raw. So I was riding high.
Oreo cookie, here comes the squishy part.
It's almost like you shouldn't just get praise for your writing and should get, criticism, constructive criticism as well. Then Luke, the sporty douche. What is he doing in this, intensive writing class if he's the sporty douche, my good sir? Any of these stories could be fake. This could be made up. But then Luke, the sporty douche who writes shitty poems, spoke.
Oh
no, he's a poet and a jock. He basically tore my whole manuscript apart. Good for you, Luke.
Yeah.
He said he found the structure, a la Proust, confusing, and the cunnilingus descriptions gratuitous. I would agree with Luke there. And the protagonist self-indulgent and unlikable. From what you have described of your work so far, I 1000% believe Luke. Just from what you've described of your work so far. I obviously took offense at this and asked him if he had read the piece or if he was just a feeble-minded twit. The whole class gasped at this, and he told me I was out of line. After class, the professor spoke to me and told me that if I wasn't able to take constructive criticism, then I shouldn't be in the workshop. That is correct.
Yep.
And if I insult another classmate again, he would fail me. I realize I probably could have chosen my words better. But am I really the asshole here? Luke went out of his way to bash my story in front of the whole class, and it was hurtful to watch something so deeply personal be ripped apart.
Okay, so I will say people put a lot of themselves into their writing.
Yes.
And having your writing attacked can be hurtful, can feel very personal, and be very emotional. Like, these are all 100% true things.
That's something that you have to be braced for. When you are going to get critique, which you should do, 100%, you have to be braced that people are going to tear it apart and not praise it. Now, if you are very new and you're not ready for really harsh critique, you could go to friends or family who you know are going to be gentle with you, or you could tell someone who's critiquing your work, hey, I only want a gentle critique, or hey, I want a critique that is majority praise, to wet your toes, to get you into it a little bit before you're ready for the full force that can be being critiqued sometimes. But it doesn't seem like Luke necessarily gave poor critiques. He said that the structure was confusing. He could have gone deeper in depth about that, and perhaps he would have if you hadn't stopped to insult him. The cunnilingus descriptions were gratuitous.
That's a very specific critique.
Yep.
Less detail on the cunnilingus description.
And the protagonist was self-indulgent and unlikable. Again, if you had given him a chance, he probably could have explained why he found the character self-indulgent and unlikable. But I seriously doubt that the author of this was actually going to listen when Luke told him why these things were an issue.
Especially because, as the antagonist phrases here, they said, "Did you actually read it, or are you a feeble-minded twit?" The antagonist didn't even confirm if the dude had read it or not yet. Being as they can point out that the cunnilingus descriptions were gratuitous, I suspect the douchey jock, what was it?
That Luke, the sporty douche, who writes shitty poems.
They most likely read the work.
Also, you have probably ripped Luke's poems to shreds numerous times because we already know how you feel about poetry. But also, as soon as I hear somebody comparing their work to Hemingway and Proust, I know that I have a pretentious antagonist on my hands who will not take criticism well because they already think that they are on the level of what some people consider to be masters.
You're also here taking this class presumably you respect this professor and they have something to teach you, otherwise you wouldn't be in their class. And the professor is clearly like, you insult one more student like this, one more classmate like this, and I'm just failing you straight up, like... No takes backsies. I'm like,
So you know this professor has already seen this guy insulting all of the poets and ripping their poetry to shreds and everything. He's like, you must stop. Next, we have...
Is this one going to be a hard one at least? We've had two pretty, solid, yes, you're most assuredly the antagonist.
I don't know. It was actually kind of hard to find Reddit stories that were about writing specifically, so I just kind of grabbed all that I could find. Am I the antagonist for writing spicy fan fiction, despite having a husband?
This one might go the other way, finally.
English is not their first language, I, 26 female, write fan fiction for at least 15 years. As I got older, my fan fictions got longer and more detailed, and eventually a bit spicy.
Oh, baby.
That's pretty normal. And I'm a really big fan of Leonard Snart, aka Captain Cold. I have no idea who that is.
I'll begin Googling as you read.
Alright, so about 3 years ago, I wrote a fan fiction about him and a few very explicit, very spicy scenes. And it's written in the I perspective. So that's and. And I write all my fiction in this perspective. So I believe it is reader plus whatever character is. So it's a spicy scene with you, the reader, or her, the writer, as the other half of the spicy scene, is my understanding. My best friend joked about it and gifted me a printed version for my last birthday 2 weeks ago. She got it printed like a book.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Because it has been a while, I started reading it just for fun. Dude, you have the best friend.
Right. Captain Cold is depicted as an adversary of various superheroes known as the Flash, Barry Allen, and serves as the leader of the Rogues. So he's a supervillain, Captain Cold, DC supervillain.
All right. I mean, that doesn't do anything for me, but
there are some better
in the TV show. That's a really popular actor that people find very sexy. So that's probably why
I could see the actor more so than the OG comic book depiction.
I left the living room, and my mother-in-law was over yesterday. Apparently, she had a look at it and read one of the spicy, detailed scenes.
Oh my.
Well, it's not to miss that my best friend printed my name over the cover, so she knew I wrote it. And she got mad and told me how filthy and slutty it was to write such things about other men than my husband. He's not a real man, even. It's not even real person fanfic.
I mean, old lady, have you ever read a romance? I mean, they might not be English. Maybe romance novels aren't as popular and ubiquitous
they're probably
in their
popular
culture.
Everywhere. And how could I do such things? And it wasn't faithful imagining such things about another man. She told a few family members, and my sister-in-law and father-in-law were very pissed at me. And I started to get the feeling I shouldn't have written this story. Sister-in-law texted on me that I was a cheating slut. Okay. My husband hasn't heard about it yet. He's on a work trip and will come home in a few hours, so he doesn't have an opinion yet. Edit, my husband came home and he already knew about it. Mother-in-law called him on the phone multiple times and he thought somebody had died by how often she tried. What fanfic? Calm down. People are fucking losing their mind over fanfic on Reddit. And here is why I love my husband. He took the book and told me to gather all the spicy scenes I wrote, and he would do all that with me, what I wrote, after we ate dinner and read the scenes. So he's up to roleplay. He's like, can I get a Captain Cold cosplay or whatever, and we will roleplay this out together for you. So he's out here being an ally to the fan fiction writers of the world. But seriously, Adam, do you think that writing spicy fan fiction about a fictional character is cheating on your spouse?
Broadly speaking, no. Now, any relationship is all about communication and boundaries. And if somebody was, hey, I'm very insecure about this specific thing, and that specific thing happened to be
Captain
Cold or something along those lines, like communicate with each other. And if someone sets boundaries and you ignore those boundaries, then yeah, like, it's not exactly cheating, but you're definitely disrespecting your partner. And I mean, there are times when, like, because of people's boundaries, you're not a good match for each other. In general, no. Writing a smut scene or thinking about someone else is not cheating.
A lot of smut writers in the world are in long-term committed relationships. So, like, we wouldn't have nearly as much smut as we have to enjoy if we didn't have the writers who were in long-term committed relationships.
Also, like, and this is like, I'm actually a little bit skeezed out about this because many people who write smut or draw smut are not, like, fantasizing about that sex scene, that smut scene, or, like, masturbating through the duration. Many of them aren't, like, that isn't even their thing. So, like, the spouse to presume that just because they wrote the scene that they're into that and want that done to them.
So, like, she might be using smut to, like, explore some themes and ideas that she doesn't necessarily want to do with her spouse. She sounds amenable to it, at least from what we've got in this little Reddit thing. So, presumably, they had a lovely evening.
She probably
went out and
picked
bought
her preferred scenes to read through as the first one.
I bet you he went out and bought a Captain Cold cosplay so they could spice it up in the bedroom. All right, this is the last one.
So anyways, to make it clear, the previous one, they most assuredly were not the antagonist.
I don't know why people of Reddit are losing their damn minds over fan fiction. Like, why fan fiction is like, there's two stories now that involve fan fiction as being like a big inciting incident. All right, and this is the last one that I found for writing. I could dig deeper if this video turns out to do well.
Or
maybe find more.
Fans and viewers out there, you can give us your favorites for us to read through and suggest. Did it make you cringe? Is there one that is actually questionable that you need expert
Yeah.
opinions.
Is there one that's like less obvious? We'll find out maybe someday. Am I the antagonist for losing my temper over my friends deleting my writing?
No.
No.
No? They deleted something that's yours? Poor Joe Marsh.
Yeah, I know, having Little Women flashbacks. Alright, but we are going to read the story anyway. My friend and I have had our differences here and there, some major and some minor. We have always been sort of on and off, period. This year, however, we've been on better terms. So much so she invited me to write a short story with her other friends, which I was excited to do as I love to write. I can't write with a group. I can't. No.
We collab. You have the executive decisions on
I
everything.
have to have final say on my book. I can't like defer to somebody else. It's not really co-writing what I do with you because like you help me plan, but you don't actually do any of the writing.
True.
So that would be entertaining though if you tried.
I could write a smut scene for you.
Oh God, with Captain Cold.
And you could, yes, with Captain Cold, and you could edit it and put it into your book. You'd have to file the serial numbers off.
I think that she had intentions of turning it into something big. Oh, honey. As this is a group that had connections to movie production, and her uncle wrote a book, and that was turned into one as well. That doesn't mean that your short story that you wrote with your friends is going to get turned into a movie. Sorry. Connections help, but they don't guarantee anything. I asked if I could invite my sister as well, because she's great with words and pacing, and luckily I got permission. Oh man, this sounds like a Too Many Cooks type of situation.
Yeah.
Everything was great at the beginning. Brainstorming was fun, and creating my own characters was nostalgic. I loved this project so much. I started a webtoon for it and contributed hours daily to it. For context, I've always been a bit of an artist. Most of my free time is devoted to forms of art, so I found myself working on this little story practically 24/7. My sister told me I cared more about it than everyone else. Very probably. Someone always has to care more about a project than everyone else. At around the third chapter I released, we're only 3 chapters in.
Well, that they released. Other team members might.
I suppose. I was feeling stressed as I had been juggling art, writing, and schoolwork, but I still shared the draft with everyone. One of the people working on it tried to rush me into publishing it quicker, and when I told her to stop, she said it was simply a joke and I had taken the wrong way, after my friend defended her and said I should continue to draw faster. I have always had a bad temper, so I took this way harsher than it was and caused a fight to escalate. We had eventually resolved the fight over this, and things went downhill from there. Constant fights all the time. Creative projects often devolve like this, especially when you're trying to create like one cohesive creative thing. Every little thing I did was carefully picked so I could somehow be the bad guy. And I did the same as well. Well, at least she admits it. She and I only spoke through messages and wouldn't even look at each other otherwise. We finished the first segment of the story and needed to think about what to do next. I spent hours working on ideas, and my friend reluctantly accepted them. We wrote about 10 chapters before my friend and the girl I previously wrote about had a conversation. While I wasn't there, they decided to delete all of my work on this new segment and start fresh. I was upset and asked them why I had no say in this, as I had been planning for weeks. I was beyond mad, and when I expressed that I should have say in this because of my constant contributions, she threatened to remove me from this entire project as a whole. Get out, that's what I say. Fucking leave. I gave in as it was 2 against 1, and the position I was in was hard to get out of. My sister and her friend, who was in the group, were on my side but stayed quiet.
With me now not being allowed to write or draw anything for it over this now, the entire thing died out because of my temper.
Oh, I don't think it was because of your temper. I don't think this creative project was ever going to get finished. I think it was going to die out, and this is just the thing that killed it.
So this is definitely... Are you the antagonist here? This is definitely a more challenging one, and we need more details to be clear about it. At least a little bit, you were some of the antagonist here. I think it's likely some of the others were also antagonistic here. And we've got 5 identified people contributing to the project. Who is your project manager? Who has final say? What is your process for adjudicating disputes and disagreements? Like, if you don't have that set up, projects like this are most likely doomed to failure. It's technically possible it might succeed. They got 10 chapters in before things hit the fan, but with that many people involved, you need
a leader and somebody who has final say. And also, like, they did a brainstorming session, but then, like, they didn't know what was going to happen next, so the main girl of the story was coming up with what was happening next. And I'm like, your brainstorming session should have covered everything. You should have known, for a group project like this, I feel like you gotta plot it. You gotta know, like, what are at least the beats to hit to get to the ending. Versus, it seems like you just planned out the first part, and now you're like, where do we go now? And everybody by this point has got their own ideas, because you're all going in separate directions by this point.
Now, that being said, and as likely as this person is to have been part of the antagonist in this situation, deleting somebody's work without talking to them directly is definitely an antagonist threshold area.
It's definitely a jerk move to be like, oh, never mind, your contributions, I'm just throwing them out without speaking to you about them. Not asking you to modify them, not asking you to tweak them, just I'm throwing them all out. We don't want this. Again, that could have been solved with a bit of a planning session so that you wouldn't have wasted all that time writing something that they didn't want in their story.
Or if from the beginning it was clearly spelt out that these two who met alone and decided to axe it, if it was established that the two of us have final creative decision over everything, and if you're going to join this project, you need to be okay with that. But I get the suspicion that wasn't spelt out.
Yeah, and that's why movies have directors, and plays have directors, and there's usually somebody in charge. And that's why when Adam and I collaborate, since I write the books, I have final say on what goes in the books. But doing a group project like this, especially one that's kind of seems so loosey-goosey to start, is almost always doomed to failure because everybody starts to get their own creative ideas. What I do hope, though, is that you have learned about yourself, that you are very creative and like to write books, and now you will go, fuck those other people, and just write your own thing. Or write what you want.
If you enjoy the collaborative experience, because it sounded like they enjoyed the brainstorming sessions, have a smaller group that you work with, or maybe just have a couple people that you have for your brainstorming sessions to bounce ideas off of, and then go and
find a few trusted people and do what Adam and I do, and brainstorm your project that you have final say on, and then once you've got the ideas that you want, you take them and you write them in the book, since you are obviously doing that anyway. And of course, the friends are probably a little bit resentful because clearly you have just swept up this project and run with it. And maybe some of them who have less free time are upset because now they can't implement their ideas because you have kind of taken over. So that could be a factor as well in why this did not work out.
Yeah. I get the feeling that the writer here has a very strong personality. Because when the two people talked to them directly, it sounds like they grudgingly accepted the author's ideas and plans. And when they confronted their two close friends who are on it directly, they acquiesced to the author's ideas and plans. But then when this big personality is not in the room, their friends aren't willing to speak up directly about it in support of them, and these other two that are a little bit against them decide to go a different way. So they probably have a big personality, a lot of energy, a lot of drive, and have put a lot of work into it, but they probably steamrolled over the other people a little bit. Which is, I mean, hey, they've got the passion, the skills, and the wherewithal.
They should just take this on the road and do it themselves. What did you guys think? Was this fun? Was this dumb? I'll be able to tell by how many people view it.
But if one of you liked it, and you stroke Julian's ego, and interact with this post, and continually bring it up, they will be forced to do it again just for you.
Just leave it in the comments. You know what to do. I'm very persuadable.
Also, I'm here for my nefarious purposes.
Here's his secret scheme that you're all waiting for.
I hear that there is another read-along upcoming, and we have to make votes on it.
Oh, that's already done.
No? It's already done?
Yeah.
Okay, we need to re-vote then. And
this would be, like, separate.
You see, The Wheel of Time is on Amazon Prime is releasing the second series adaptation of the Wheel of Time novelization. So it is a great time for Julian to ride the hype and do a read-along of the first book in the series, Eye of the World. And it can be full of spoilers because the first season's already out, and they can be as scathing and hateful as they want, and they'll get all of the ire of the fandom, who's super hyped right now, and they'll all be drawn to her channel, and we'll have a super hype wave of them being like, oh, how could you say such a thing about my most precious book?
I don't know if this is 100% a great idea, because Wheel of Time fans, I don't think actually will stick around my channel, because I don't read the kind of books that people who read Wheel of Time generally read. They're like, Wheel of Time and Brandon Sanderson and all of those other big, long, high fantasy series, and I'm like, no, thank you. But I might be willing, it won't be a full read along where I sit down and I read to the camera, but I might be willing, if people are really actually interested in this, in me reading or listening to some of the first book, and then Adam and I having a conversation about it on camera, and then me reading and listening to a little bit more, having another conversation. So we could do that.
Help me convince my spouse to ride the magic hype train that's a-coming.
Maybe. The hype train, even if I try to ride the hype train, they usually are like, bye, Julian, on their way past. So that usually doesn't work. But if enough of you are interested, all 5 of you who watched to the end of this video. Alright, other than that, if you want to make this more likely to be a reality, you can support me monetarily on Patreon, or if you don't like the hassle of Patreon and you just want to do a one-time donation, I have a Ko-fi, coffee, however the fuck it's pronounced. Adam's holding up a cup. Well, it's a fandom reference.
It's a fandom reference to my hype train plot.
Yes,
so.
He's subliminally messaging you now. Also, you can hire me to be your developmental editor. That's right. If you've written something with a group or otherwise, and you want me to tell you that your sex scenes are gratuitous, you can hire me to do that.
Not the sex scene, just the cunnilingus.
The cunnilingus, I'm sorry. YouTube is going to demonetize this video so hard. But yes, I will help you figure out the correct level of cunnilingus for your book if you hire me as your developmental editor. And finally, you can purchase my books if you just want to see if you think I'm any good at this whole writing thing. They are for sale now on Amazon. Am I missing anything, Adam, do you think?
I think perhaps you've rattled on too much.
I have a long outro. I gotta get
you should, like, alternate. Like, not do all of them every time, but do, like, some of them.
Thank you again for joining us, Adam. You have many things to do today, so...
I do.
Thank you all for watching today. Are you ready for the goodbye, Adam?
Always ready. 3, 2, 1, bye!
Bye!
Hello.
And now I would like you to say hello to my patrons. Patrons like Sunnyshy, Saga, Sarah, Kat, 78 kilograms of shade, Veda, Ingrid, Roma, Pansing Pony, Julius the Nice Dragon, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Maria, Kristen, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Lauren, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, KJ, Lafone, Amanda, Celia, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, Afra, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marine, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, The Unraveled Legion, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah. I hope you gave them all a very hearty hello.